Thank you for coming tonight. This is our October Jim Wood Speaker Series, and it's something new for our series in total of bringing back a panel of alumni who are eager to tell us all the lessons they learned in the past couple of years that they've been out there working, and they do have some good stories to share with us and some good information. You all have the handouts, so you have their bios. Okay, who we have tonight is Dominique Grant. Raise your hand, smiling. Jeff Martin. You got Martin Sands, and you got Marcia Greer. So we're going to go with our panel. We're going to start. I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you. They're going to tell you what they do, and everything else is up to them. Okay? Each person's going to have 10 minutes. I'm going to be the keeper at a time, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers afterwards. Okay? So, Marcia, we'll start with you.
Hello. It is a really great honor to be here. I was telling Professor M that it's always a pleasure to come back and get to share anything that I've learned after being here and how valuable this education was to me once I left. And so thank you for having us. My biography talked a lot about my time at Cooper Wiring Devices. I actually have been at Delta Airlines for 2.5 years in the revenue management department. So that's what I currently do, and I absolutely love it. I've always wanted to work for Delta Airlines, and so that was my goal with getting a degree, and everything I did at Cooper was preparing me for Delta. While I was here, I was a marketing major. I started out as general business, and Dr. Arjumai used to call me general business in class. And I took some marketing courses and realized that I really was drawn to the field of marketing, not just because of like the advertising side of it, but because I saw a lot of it has actually a lot of the analysis and market research side is what I really got drawn to, because a lot of people think of marketing as only advertising or sales and related to that type of thing, but there's actually a really strong emphasis on knowing how to analyze data and how to make that into like a summary, or making that into a final decision that will impact the business. So that's just a different way to look at marketing if you haven't thought of it that way. I came here tonight to share a few things that I've learned that really helped me when I was in school, and kind of how I looked at the coursework, and then also once I started out and was just getting, started in my career. So I have 3 things. I try to keep it simple because we only have 10 minutes. But my first tip is that I would say you need to learn as much as you can wherever you are. So even if you're not in your dream job, and even if you aren't doing exactly what you always thought you would do for your whole entire life leading up to this point, you can still learn a lot, and you still need to be contributing a lot to wherever you are. So when it comes to your coursework, you need to be looking at the actual, what you're learning, not just that you're checking things off so that you can pass a test, but you need to be actually considering what you're being taught and try to find ways to apply it to what you want to be doing. So we talked a lot about at the dinner, but if you're in an economics course, you need to be understanding that trade-off between supply and demand. That's pretty much my job now, is kind of economics and doing that. So the fact that I paid attention to those classes allows me to do what I do today. Applying that to when you're actually in your current position, I was able to learn a lot more about Excel and Visual Basic Coding and writing macros and SQL in my position at Cooper Wiring Devices, which prepared me to be a much better candidate when I was applying at Delta Airlines in the revenue management department, because it's very heavy on the analytical and Excel side. Those are things that I didn't know going into Cooper Wiring Devices, but I learned so much while I was there. So I would say that you've got to learn everything you can wherever you are, even if it's not your cup of tea. My second thing is that you should know your weaknesses and to learn from them. That kind of goes in line with taking criticism when it's given to you and applying it to make yourself better. if someone takes the time to offer you any kind of critique or advice, that means they're investing in you, and you should say thank you and really try to apply it to what you're doing, because they've taken time to consider you and to think about you and to try to make you a better person. I've learned a lot about myself from criticisms and critiques from my bosses, and that just makes me a better person overall. And then my last thing is to make your resume absolutely perfect. And that could be a much longer discussion about what actually goes onto your resume. But in my current position, I do a lot with the hiring process and interview process in my department. And so I get to see a lot of resumes. And the ones that do not make it are the ones that have any kind of grammatical errors or any kind of spelling errors, or anything that's a red flag that you don't pay attention to detail, like formatting things and different problems like that. So you have to think of it from the perspective of the hiring manager who has about 500 resumes they're having to go through. A good manager will read all of them. Some of them will just pick some out. But if you think about it, that they've got to read 500 resumes, if they find any error at all, then that's going to be a red flag for them to throw your resume away and move on to the next one, because they have a lot to look through. So if you have any kind of errors like that, you are literally giving them a reason to overlook you. So you need to find someone that is a perfectionist, that you trust, and will be overly honest with you, and let them tear your resume apart, and then put it back together, and it will be perfect, and you can pass it on and be confident that you're presenting your best qualities to the employer, and they can focus on you instead of that you spelled there, and there incorrectly, or you used the wrong words, or you formatted everything differently and all your headers are different fonts. That is not seen as creative, that is seen as disorganized, and they will move on. So those are my 3 things. So learn all you can where you are, know your weaknesses and learn from them, and then have a very, very perfect resume. Those are my tips.
Okay. We'll move on to Martin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Martin Sands, and when I was here, I was an accounting major back in 2003, 2005, and then I came back again from 2007 to 2009. How many accounting majors do we have here in the room tonight? All right. Good. I like to see that. But yeah, for me, the key was actually finding out and really having a passion and knowing what you really want to do, first and foremost. Everything else is going to follow. The pay, the benefits, and all, and it's going to follow. But you need something that you could stick with for the longevity, for the long run. And that's going to come from finding your passion, what you really want to do, what you're really good at. And that's your main focus. First of all, getting your career in line, what you want to do. For me, how I started, when I graduated in 2005 with my BBA, major in accounting, I was working outside of my field. I was in the manufacturing field, actually as an equipment operator at Ecolab. It was a Fortune 500 company, and the pay was really good for an entry level. Even for an entry-level accounting person. So it was easy for me to get comfortable and stay there, and wanted to stay there. But that was not my passion. That's not where my career field was in. And I had to make myself actually, trying to get out of that comfort zone and trying to get back on track with my career field. And I did. Took a huge pay cut, even started out with a temp agency, and that's how I got started. I put a full-time job down, which was not going the direction that I was focusing on. That was my major, and went to a temp agency, account temps, to try to get back in my field. And like I said, took a huge pay cut for that one. But after 3 months, I got hired on full-time with the city of Griffin, and that's where I was. That's where I was assigned to when I went to the agency, the city of Griffin, and doing cashier work basically at the water department / electric department. And like I said, in 3 months' time, my supervisor saw my work, and she thought, that there was a better position for me to move on to, accounting position at the airport, the Griffin Airport, accounting and admin specialist, at the city of Griffin. And so in January of 2007, I went on over there, and that's where I'm at now, for the past 6-7 years. Was I prepared when I got there for my start with everything that I've learned in school and, this just career-wise? And yes and no. I was prepared, yes, when I got there as far as the background that I already had. See, I was introduced to accounting formally introduced to accounting back in 1991. Think about that, I feel old thinking about how long ago. It's been over 20 years. But that's when I started in 2001 to 2003, and then from 2003 to 1991 to 1993, and then from 1993 to 1995, and graduated with a associate's degree major in accounting in 1995, and then it took 10 years to actually came back to school again. And so in 2003, I came here at Clayton State to 2005 and graduated with a bachelor's in business administration, accounting major, and came back again in 2007 for my MBA course. It was the first cohort when I came in 2007 to 2009. But anyway, as far as having the background and knowledge and all the concepts of accounting, I was prepared in that sense, but not really prepared because a lot of times in the real world, in the business world, when you hear training, it's not really the training that you think of. So when I got there, the last person that was doing my job had left about 3 months ago, and there was no one knowing what that person did. So for 3 months, I don't know if y'all did Film and Flash or Cycle Center, where you have the package that comes with no order and you shake it out, and you have the vouchers and the checks, and then everything is not in order, and you have to put it together in order, and then actually prepare the statements from there. That's kind of how it was when I got to the Griffin Airport. I was trying to make heads and tails of it for 3 months. So yeah, and like I said, in a sense I was prepared, but in a sense no, because I didn't have the training. They didn't want to train me on what I needed to do. What should I have studied more or pay attention to more when I was here? I would say, for me, the number one thing that came to mind was communications. A lot of times when you in these courses and classes, you have the instructors come in and they may have a topic of discussion going and trying to get everyone to interact and trying to get everyone feedback and ideas and all about whatever they have, whatever the topic of discussion is. And a lot of times in the classes and the courses, it's just pitch quiet. You barely have interaction. You barely have communication going on. You barely have anyone raising their hand and participating. And it's usually just a usual select few that does. And inside a lot of the other students, deep down, there are a lot of bright ideas, but it's not coming out. It's just there, and sometimes it's on the tip of their tongue, but it's not coming out. And I promise you that, you may really have that really bright idea, and you really may have the solution to a lot of, how to make the company better, a bright idea of how to make a process better, a situation better, whatever it is in that company, and be a huge asset to that company. But it's a different thing from knowing that and having that deep down inside and deep in your thoughts, but not being able to really be comfortable expressing it. Especially when you're around like a board meeting and you have the city manager there and the city commissioners there and the board of directors there and all. And in class, you might have your teacher trying to, point at you and sometimes trying to get you to pull your tongue and draw the information out of you. But in the real world, a lot of times when you're sitting in that setting, you're just going to be passed over. There's nobody going to try to get you to get a bright idea out. And sometimes that's where it stays. It's going to stay right there, right in your head, even though you really, really might have it. And so, like I said, that's one of the key things. I had a chance to do it different. I would just try to be more comfortable with that. Every little opportunity to get engaged in a class discussion, how you feel about whatever the discussion is, I would chime in, get into Sam's Club, get into clubs that we have here at the school, get into all these stuff. Get into that. It's going to go a long way. It's going to make it a little easier. Also, research a lot more. I knew the tax material, and I knew it back and forth in the courses. The first time doing the real world stuff and trying to really do it, I volunteered in 2004. And I knew the tax formula, I knew all the tax laws, I knew the course, like I said, back and forth. I could have done the tax really quickly on a piece of paper and I'm done with it. Now, volunteering for the Vita project and actually getting on with the software, and people are coming in and, you know, it's a real simple return, but because you didn't have that program or software to really practice on a whole lot, in the class, I don't know how long I took to do a simple return, probably an hour. That should have probably taken 15 minutes, to be honest with you, to get it in and out of there and get the person on. And it wasn't just me. The second time I sped up, I got a little bit faster. The third time, I was within that 5 and 10 minutes period. I was, because I had, I noticed what I needed to work on, what was missing. So those are some of the things, going through your tax courses. Download one of the free softwares, stock softwares. Download one of the free accounting softwares. Pull them all in. They're all free out there. You got free ones to try out, see what it really looks like. Because in the real world, that's what you are going to be working with. So all that concept stuff, that, but you need these real, these are what you're really going to be working with in the real world. So that's another thing I would have done: more research and more practicing that stuff. How important is it to have, to know the databases and Excel and all? Very important. I love the internal reports, not the external. I love the internal reports that goes to the managers and all. They're all organized in Excel. A lot of it, your cost of goods sold report, how you arrive at cost of goods sold that goes on the balance sheet. That's an Excel, program. Your JEs, your month-end JEs, before they actually get entered into the Cogsdale or whatever the official accounting software is for the company, it goes in an Excel program and then transferred on there. So it's very important, and you got to organize your ideas on there. What to expect? I would say when you go in, like I said, it's a lot of it is not exactly what you've seen in your books for the most part. The concept, yes, always, and that's the main part. But outside of the concept, as far as what the actual softwares look like, how these things actually look like, I can recognize the balance sheet out there versus the balance sheet in my book. You know what I mean? It's different. So these things, you expect those to be different, and also not just follow what the job description is. You're there to record month-end JEs, you're there to do monthly billing, invoicing, you're there to do sales and use tax monthly. Those are what your job description, what you do. But beyond that, like, how can you really affect and make a change to that bottom line? Because just basically doing your routine job is what is going to be routine. But as far as figuring out, like, is this information really captured correctly? Just a quick example, if I have time. We had, for example, a simple sales transaction, typically recorded as, your credit to sales tax payable, and a credit to federal tax payable. The thing is, there was no really federal tax payable. So you had a portion of your sales just going into a federal tax payable account that just kept inflating. And because as a city department, municipality, we don't pay federal taxes, there was no way to relieve that payable. So, and no one caught that for years. And so there was over $100,000 worth of, accumulated sales in this inflated federal tax payable account that needed to be actually a part of sales. So when that gets relieved, debit that and credit the sales, relieve it and put it back in sales where it should be, that's a huge difference in what your actual bottom line is, your net income is. So those type of things, look at what is not being captured right, what is, how can you make that better, if you could actually have your accounting for inventory done in a different method versus the method that is being done at the job, when you walk in there, and see if that makes a difference as well. All these things, so that's what I would say you're going looking for. I think that's about it. It's very important to have networking also. I think that's very important. It goes a long way. It goes a long way, especially in our culture, in our society. When you have a little network that you belong to, or is some affiliation or some title or whatever, it's almost like an automatic stamp that gives you credibility, and like that goes a long way. So I think it's very important. I think I went over my time on it.
No, we'll get back. Accountants don't get a chance to talk a lot. I don't let them out too much.
All right, okay.
Okay, so that's going to be pretty tough to follow up to. Can everybody hear me in the back? No?
You want to use that other mic then?
Okay. That's okay. What about now? Can you hear me in the back? Okay. All right. Okay, can you hear me in the back? Yeah. Okay. So my name is Jeffery Martin. I transferred to Clayton State in the fall of 2004. I transferred from Georgia College and State University in Milledgeville. In high school and growing up, my grandfather told me, chemistry is going to be big one day. You should be a pharmacist. Be a pharmacist. They just kind of sit back and this and that. Come to find out, chemistry and organic chemistry is a little bit tougher than my mind wanted to deal with. So I stayed on campus for that first year at Georgia College, transferred back here to get back on working full-time again, and go a different path with school. So I chose supply chain as my minor. At the time, they didn't have the major. So anybody here today? Well, let me see you raise your hand. Who's in the supply chain major here today? Okay, good. I think it's a great degree. I wish they had it when I was here. Now, I took the minor, so that was definitely a plus. I did a concentration in finance because I was always, growing up, never thought I was going to be a math person, but come to find out, 5 years doing what I do now, numbers are pretty cool. Some of you may think I'm crazy, some not. But regardless, when I did the transfer to Clayton State, that was 2008 or 2004. There's a lot of talk about supply chain. You're hearing a lot about supply chain in the news and industry places. A lot about people cutting costs and purchasing and transportation and marketing and this and that. They said jobs were going to be kind of a high value. If you could bring value to your company and figure out a way to cut $1 million off the P&L, and you're going to be an asset to that company. So I did a little bit more research, and I finally did commit. Chose to do the minor in supply chain. Studying things such as how to organize a warehouse, how to, what are your basic fundamental, transportation modes, things of that nature, and supply chain is just not trucks that drive over the road. So, places that make, calculators in China, you got to get those here to the States somehow. So a cool part about in my time here at Clayton State, my last semester, I think it was my last semester, I did two internships. One was with a freight forwarding company here in Forest Park called Alpha Sun International. They, at that job, essentially you would have to get all this paperwork and permits set up for when somebody wanted to bring goods over any international borders. So that really kind of opened my eyes up and really got my hands on and got me thinking about, well, what is supply chain? Well, it's more than just trucks and planes and trains and that sort of thing. That was very paper, sort of moving forward. That was very manual, so to say, a lot of heavy paper transactions. So that really wasn't up my alley, but that was very good to know, to have the experience. My second internship was with a company by the name of Rock 10, which is where I currently work. So I went there as a supply chain analyst, and essentially what I would do is more or less, so Rock 10 today, they're about a $10 billion company as far as net sales, but we buy a lot of pallets and we pay a lot, almost $1 billion in transportation, and we buy a lot of office paper, just the obvious things. So I was in charge of getting reports ready for the decision makers in the company to say, we spend $50 million hypothetically on pallets. How do we cut some costs out of that? So I would put together reports that would say, we buy X number of pallets, here's our suppliers, here's the prices we're paying for them. The decision makers were in charge of taking that data to market, to source it, so to say, to send out what they call RFPs, requests for proposals. And all the suppliers that they would go to, you would give them the data and you would say, we want to lower our costs. We're paying $1.72 today. What can you do for us? Can we get $1.68? Can we get $1.50? And you would try, and they would do everything in their power to drive costs out of the business. That was pretty rewarding for both me, because I could, granted, I didn't affect the bottom line, but I was putting together reports to people who were calling the shots to take hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions, or millions of dollars out of the bottom line of the company. So that was pretty rewarding for me. I mentioned earlier I like numbers. Never thought I would, but it's pretty interesting how all that came about. My first day on the job actually wasn't any sort of analysis whatsoever. It was, we had a new e-procurement tool that we were trying to get our suppliers to use. So they had me cold calling our suppliers to get a fax or an email number that we could send our purchase orders to. So that, those are some of the things that you should expect in your job if you're straight out of college or what have you. Expect the unexpected. Was I prepared? In theory, yes. Really, no, probably not. But my perception is that your employer, if you're coming straight out of college, if you're coming straight out of school, and you don't have much work experience, that employer is not expecting you to know how to run the ship. So that's one thing to keep in mind. They are expecting you to know the basics. Come on time. Be able to communicate efficiently. Dress appropriately. Be able to talk, in an appropriate manner. That's my feeling, is that people straight out of college have somewhat of an advantage over those who have been in the industry for 10, 20, 30 years. And the reason I say that is because take college student A, who has right out of college, learning all the new terms, all the new things. They're very still green in their mind, as opposed, and you can pay them a little bit less. I don't want to, scare anybody away by saying that. Whereas you take this 20-year, 30-year senior person that's been doing the same thing, they're going to come in with a mindset of, well, this is how we did it. Well, that's not how we did it in our company. So you're going to face a more difficult time in trying to change or persuade that senior person who's done it for 20 or 30 years that knows everything than you are the person fresh out of college who is hopefully going to be more apt to learn things, more open-minded, act more like a sponge than the senior that's just going to say, well, that's not how we did it, I'll do it, but I don't agree with it. So that's one of the things that my personal opinion is probably good for those of you who are fresh out of school, have limited experience, and things like that. Just see a show of hands. Who's ready to graduate? Ready? Who's ready to graduate? Only half? Okay. All right, well, let me see a show of hands of those who are ready to get out and graduate, who have a job lined up, or who have thoughts of what you want to do. So that cut that number in half. So my point here is, and I'm guilty of it, I'll be the first one to admit, and we talked about this at our dinner, I'll be the first one to admit that I was ready to get out. I was on the 5.5-year plan. Some of you are probably a lot smarter, or on the 4-year plan. You're going to get in, you're going to get out. Some of you may be on a longer plan. Don't take that the wrong way. I was so ready to get out and get in the job force and make money. I was very thankful to Professor M and the supply chain group and the School of Business here at Clayton State that Professor M knew people that he could hook me up with for my internships. Because think about, for those of you who don't have things lined up, and don't have and haven't put that much thought into it, you do need to put a lot of thought into it. Have something in mind. What do you like? What interests you? Network, talk to people, because the day is going to come when you're in your final semester and you have no internships lined up, you have no previous work experience. Your resume is going to look weak. And I don't mean to say that to scare people, but you need to be thinking about that, right? I mean, you need to be thinking about that today, whether you're pre-business, pre-healthcare, whatever you're in. If you don't have a major decided, and you're not on a path or a plan, or you're just kind of going down the road, just kicking the can, so to say, you need to stop and think about, what do I want to do? Because the day that you get that diploma is just not going to entitle you to a job. All right, so especially in this economy, all that's going on. Just be prepared, have a plan, think about it ahead of time. Don't just walk up there and get your diploma and say, I'm going to start applying jobs and I should have a job in a week or two, because it's probably not going to happen. I can't iterate that enough. One other thing I'll talk about real quick is, in my job I come across, I work a lot with controllers and accountants and finance people in our operations in our plants. And it blows me away the number of people who don't know how to use the very basic tools such as Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Outlook, how to type emails, how to communicate. And I think Marcia or Martin pointed on this earlier, how to communicate efficiently. I go back to my Excel statement though. These controllers and finance people and accountants, I interact with them and talk on the phone with them, and I say, filter column D to this. Here's your number that you need to report on for this month. And they say, how do you filter? And I'm not lying. This happens to me frequently. So I can't put enough importance on understanding Excel. And don't just be basic at it. Take time to really learn it. How do you do more of the advanced functions? Things like VLOOKUPs and HLOOKUPs, and how to do your more advanced, sum if type things. Because in the real world, depending on what you get into, your bosses and the people you work with are going to be depending on you to know how to work basic Excel files, how to reply to emails, how to forward, who to copy, when to copy people, when not to, things of that nature. With that being said, if I could give you any advice on what to expect and prepare for, expect the unexpected, but don't let it catch you by surprise. Network. Always take a pen and pencil to any meeting you go to. That's day one stuff, very basic. Always put your phone on vibrate. I can't. That's another one. I can't iterate that enough. Just put your phone on vibrate or leave it at your desk. And last but not least, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. Professor M said it perfectly earlier at the dinner. There's no such thing as a dumb question. The only dumb questions are the ones that don't get asked. There's a very good chance, and I know you've probably heard your professors and everybody say it, there's a good chance if you have a question, somebody else does. Be the person to step up and ask. Well, hey, nobody's going to look down on you. Nobody's going to think you're dumb or you're ignorant or you aren't paying attention. Just step up and ask. That's going to let the person you ask know that you're paying attention, that you're focused, that you're willing to learn, that you're just not there taking down notes and ready to get back to your cube and take your mouse book, whatever that stuff is, your MySpace, Facebook, whatever. You know, let them know that you are engaged. That's going to go a long way in your careers. That's really all I have.
Okay.
Sorry if I went over.
Don't have more, no worries.
How's everybody doing?
Oh, it works now.
You got finesse it, then.
I got it.
I'm gonna try to make mine short and sweet because I've been here before. So I thought about it when they asked me to come. What did I want to hear when I was sitting down and where you at? Besides getting my extra credit points, which was number one. You know, I've been here. My name is Dominique Grant. I'm the Director of Clinical Operations for Caduceus Occupational Medicine. We have 10 practices in Atlanta area, one in Macon, Georgia. I manage all of the corporate Caduceus clinics. We have 2 franchises, one in Morrow, one in Douglasville. Over like 125 employees. I manage 100 of those employees. That's pretty much what I am. And what I wanted to tell you is the focus, why you should be here besides the extra credit, is one of the things that I would have done better. I graduated from Clayton State, of course. Management was my major, minor in supply chain and marketing. I would try to double major, but for some reason they wouldn't allow that. The thing that I graduated summa cum laude. That's great, because what I learned, but the college is about 2 things. 1, getting your degree. 2, everybody in this room is potential employees, potential contacts, potential leads. Get to know everybody. Never let it be a stranger in the room, because you never know who these people are in the room next to you. You should make yourself memorable. Everybody in this room, every class that you have, especially as you get to the end, because you know in the beginning, first year, second year, some people gonna wing out. College dropouts. That's fine. When you get to your 3rd and 4th year, everybody you should see as a potential target. Network. And I seriously mean that, because you never know who the person is sitting beside you. You should never meet a stranger, especially that goes to your class, and make yourself memorable. Second thing that I would have done if I was still in school knowing what I know now, I would have went ahead and took my GMAT that last year, because now that I'm out, I don't want to take GMAT. So now I have to compromise, so to speak, on the schools that I want to take with my MBA versus taking a GMAT, and then my options will be wide open. But right now I just don't feel like I don't want to study to remember back what I remember then just to go. So that's not going to happen. Luckily there are a lot of options. So those are 2 things that I would have done more. I would have networked. A lot of people knew me, but I didn't know a lot of people. I came in, I just want to do this, get my degree, go home. I got to work. I worked full time my total college career. You know, it just was like that. If I met you, we studied together, that's fine. If I didn't, that was great too. But that's not how college is supposed to work. The people that you in college with, that it's important that we build a network. And even just saying Clayton State, for me, when you come in, I try to hire you because we build the network. We make Clayton, not just Clayton State big, because that's another person we created a high position for. That's a network for you and the next person that's coming. So hopefully when you get in your careers, you make the school better by increasing the alumni network about what you do. So I got my start. I'm in the medical field, of course. I started out as a medical assistant. I didn't even know what that was at the time. Hey, I gotta do something. Luckily it worked out for me. I've been with the same company for 11 years. So I started there. I was already a manager when I came to Clayton State. But looking back, I don't even know why. I had to be messing up. But I had a lot of initiative. So I always try my best at whatever I did. And back then it was ignorance. Now I said like, oh, they let me make that decision. Who's my manager? They need to be fired. So it worked out for me. So Clayton State, I can honestly say when you ask, did they prepare me for where I'm at now? I can say they did their part of it. Every class except for, because I'm not from Georgia, that Georgia history class, which I still don't know why they need it. Every class besides that was critical in my success. Even the humanities, the art, music, you're like, why would I need this? The people, the CEOs, the CFOs, they do stuff differently than what we do. We get in the morning, we listen to Ricky Smiley or whatever the radio stations are, they listen to NPR in the morning. That's what they do. Classical music, that I can't tell you how many benefits I got by knowing Bach, classical music when it comes on artwork. That took me to another level because those people think of stuff differently than we think of stuff. So, you just gotta, so even humanities was important. Philosophy was definitely important for me. I'm in a management group, CFO, HRO, director of marketing, HR. I have to compete with those people for financing. So we don't really like marketing people in operations. They're trying to take our money from us. So it's always an argument that you gotta prove, I need this money. I need this money from my people. I don't want no ad. We don't need no ad. Don't tell people they can get stuff for free. We need that money. And that's real life. So coming in, I was a project manager. When I graduated, I became the director of operations, and I replaced the person that was there before me, and it was because of Clayton State. They knew the conversation I got the opportunity to have with the audience I had. They was like, oh, yeah, they must have taught him something, because you making decisions that you can argue your point. Because some people, what Martin was saying, you can't argue your point. You may have a good idea, you don't know how to express it. Because talking to people the way you want to be talked to, that's only how your friends work. You talk to people on levels that they understand. Everybody is not the same. Everybody, you got to figure out who your target audience is. My boss, I love him. I make the idea seem like his idea. You got a great idea. It really was my idea. So you got to figure out, because if I act like it's my idea, it's not going to work. There's no way it's going to fly. So you got to figure out who your target audience is, the result that you want to have, and try to go for that result. So CSU did their part. They did part of it. They prepared me, but all the rest is on you and what you do with it. Again, classes like critical thinking, philosophy, humanities, and communications, they all played a big part because you need to be able to argue your point. I can't tell you how many people dropped out just for critical thinking alone. Oh, they don't like Jesus. Oh, they question their belief and they dropped out. And it's not questioning your belief. If anything that you believe in, you should be able to argue your point. And you should be able to take the argument when somebody disagree with you. What classes would I have studied more? I'm a business major. I would say to me, I don't care what you're in, supply chain, marketing, whatever you're in, all your upper level classes, keep those books. You will refer back to them. And lucky for me, I was a supply chain man. It's like warehouses, what am I gonna do with it? I'm not doing that. I already knew I wasn't doing it. But why supply chain was good for me, it should be for any of you. If you don't have it as a minor, you probably should think about it. Because what supply chain does is put everything in perspective from the beginning to the end. So that was my outlook. I can't tell you how marketing goes and finance goes, different cause problem with my goals, and those goals cause we had to streamline them. So they never even thought of these professional people, everybody making six figures, and you're like, how? How could they by losing money? Because She giving away free stuff. He trying to fix the account work. So it coming in with the supply chain and make you streamline things. It's like, hold up 1 second. Don't slow down on the inventory. That's making supplemental earnings go up. Because now people driving around and get the stuff. Let them order it. You're not saving. You thought you were saving money finance. You're not saving any money. You're not looking at the whole picture. So coming in and just being able to express that, and they looking at you like, oh, yeah, that is good. Yeah, we need to give him a raise. and luckily for me, that's been my experience every year. So keep all your upper level management books, whatever they are, whatever your field is, keep all of them. Even marketing, I really don't like marketers. Even keep those, because number one thing I wrote for marketing, WIFM. What's in it for me? Everybody should know that. I don't care what you do. What's in it for me? Make whoever you're trying to believe what you say, something got to be in it for them. So even if you don't like marketing like me, you should know some basic marketing strategies. What advice would I give to you? Well, I gave you a whole lot thus far. So let me just reiterate, take your GMAT before you finish school. Even if you was like me, I was like, Lord, please, I'm just ready. You know when you get that senioritis, it's time to go, Lord. Professor M is tripping, I can't. So even if you think you're not gonna continue on, take the GMAT, it just gives you more and more options. And if you have time, you should go ahead and just finish straight through it. I would have did that if I had a chance to do it again. So advice, stay positive all the time. Stay positive all the time. Make goals. Make plans to reach those goals. Don't just make, I want to have a Bentley. Well, how do you plan to have the Bentley? You got to create a plan to make that happen. So make plans to reach those goals and constantly evaluate and reevaluate those. Because things change. The market changed. Government shut down. Some people kind of stuck right now. Be kind, but be eager. Again, if you just look at this class or just this room, when you graduate, suppose everybody graduating the same time when you graduate. All those people, even though they're going to be your friends afterward, you want to keep them on your friendly side. But you're going to be competing with those people for jobs. You have to be better than them. So be nice, but be eager all the time. Be nice consistently. Be prepared. Again, like I said, I graduated summa cum laude. It wasn't that I was the smartest person in the room. I studied harder than a lot more people. Some people was happy, hey, I just want to make it see. I want to know this stuff because I know I'm trying to get some money when I leave out of here. To me, that everything I learn gonna have a financial impact. To me, this degree costs me this much. I need to see a return off this degree, and I need to be making this much in 5 years. I made it in 3, but I had to go. Research everything. Don't. Somebody spoke about interviewing. Do not come to an interview not knowing anything about the company. Don't do that. You're not gonna get hired. Another thing, small things. Your dress code. We'll go ahead and do the interview even though we know we're not gonna hire you. He's gonna give you 5 minutes. Come on, you came in. We know. They say people don't do certain things that I'm telling you. I interview people all the time. My HR person is with me. We already know. So it's stuff that happens in the real world. I don't care what they teach you in the books. You got to be on top of your P's and Q's. And again, she said, my HR, for some reason, I don't care if you misspell words, but my HR, if anything on the application, I was like, but she speaks so nice. No, they're not hiring you. Not hiring.
Dominic, we need some time for Q&As.
Okay,
All right?
I'm done.
Now, when Dominic was in my class, he always set a clear presence for himself. He always stood out because he would always come in wearing his scrubs. I thought he was a doctor, but but he would always wear his scrubs every time to class because he was really beat from working. All right, we're going to open up the floor down to questions and answers, and I know the first question is always the hardest, so we're going to jump to the number 2 question. Who has the number 2 question? That didn't even work. All right, we'll go up there. You were first.
Marcia, one question. If I brought my resume, would you critique it? Okay, I need your cards.
I'm so critiqued. No, really, that's...
Resume.
Okay.
And it really, that's important. I mean, I know I talked about it, but if you know somebody in that department that you're specifically applying for, you also want to have them look at it again because they'll know the keywords and the key things that that hiring manager is interested in.
And also, that's a very good way of getting a very backdoor interview, is when you ask people for help on your resume,
Yeah.
they're also talking to you, and they're doing what Dominic does. I'll know immediately that you got something or not, you know? And so that's a very good way of getting some attention to you without going through the front door.
That's a secret of networking that a lot of people don't realize.
Right.
Is a lot of times you just need to ask for help or just get in contact with somebody. A lot of people do this in my department, and they'll just say, I just want to come and do a side-by-side with one of your analysts. So they're really just saying, I just want to learn more about what you do. The next time they do a hiring round, that manager will remember you and that analyst that you sat with will remember you. So you have those people that you already know in addition to actually knowing the specific job because you saw it, and so you'll be able to speak better to it at the actual interview. So that's
Or the
really,
people would say, I know somebody who's good for this job because you already talked to them. Very good. Number 3.
Marcia, you said that you wanted to work for Delta. Did you apply for an open position, or did you go in there and try and get an interview? How did you get in Delta?
I applied to just about every position that I was qualified for about 2 years. I'm very persistent. I had,
That's very hard, one of the 2.
yeah, Delta is a very competitive place to work. There are a lot of large corporations in Atlanta that are hard to get into. And then specifically the department that I'm in now, revenue management, is also extremely competitive. They do a lot of recruiting for MBA level people. I didn't have an MBA. So they'll do different rounds, and I came in one of the rounds where they were looking at bringing in people that already had, work experience for the entry level positions, and that's how I got in. They have different stages. First, they look at your resumes. The hiring managers go through a bunch, like hundreds of resumes. So they narrow that down to a list of about 30 people. They do phone interviews. I had 2 phone interviews. So one time I had a phone interview, didn't make it. Then the next round they had an opening, which was maybe a few months later. I applied again. They used the same questions, so I remembered them, and I was much more prepared. And so a lot of times you just have to go a couple times to get better and better and better. It's like practice, 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 and then you get it. So I knew what to say in the phone screen to really wow them. That led to a face-to-face interview where I really was also prepared, and so that led to actually getting the job. And they said, like, one of the questions, and this is just me and Delta. I don't think you should say this unless you absolutely mean it. But one of the questions was, why do you want to work for Delta Airlines? And my response was, I don't know why I wouldn't want to work for Delta Airlines. Like, this is the only place I want to work, and I loved the actual position and what I do, and I still love it. And so that response, I think, showed a really, like, an eagerness and an ability to go above and beyond.
That's a good answer. Now, if you had come out and said, I like to travel, you wouldn't have gotten that.
Well, not
Just want to be clear on that.
the managers will point that out. They'll say, well, all they were interested in is the flight benefits. Like, they know if you just want to fly to New York every weekend.
I mean, that's always going to happen, so why raise it?
Right.
All right, number 4.
How important, Dominique, since you're the Director of Clinical Operations, is it to belong to a professional organization?
Man, it helps you with networking. And depending, like with me, you gotta have a lot of different certifications in healthcare. So it's important that you have certain certifications, but it's more on the networking side. It help, person A, because it's a connection a lot of times it's a connection. Rarely, in businesses, do somebody not know somebody, so to speak. Sometimes you get in a cold hire, but or you be waiting 2 years.
And one follow-up.
Somebody in 2 years.
One follow-up question: when you hire someone on, is like Epic? That's something that you can get a certification in. If they become an employee there, is that something that they will help the person get certified in getting, or does it depend on the type of position they're in?
It depends on the type of position, but whatever certifications required for your job, we will pay for. Initially, if you don't have it, and then we will maintain those.
Okay.
All right, another one?
Does anyone on this panel have an internship open? My internship got shut down along with the government. So.
Yeah, but it'll be open tomorrow, so.
Yeah.
They're not in a position to say if there's internships, so the thing is, take it offline and see what they can do for you.
Mine's a medical assistant, really only. And some IT, but I'm sure there's no IT people on in here. Oh, IT. That's the car right here.
You weren't working on a website for Obama, were you? All right, we have one way in the back.
I'm not available to do mock interviews, but something you need to know, and what I did that prepared me phenomenally was to know the STAR format. If you haven't heard about that in your classes, you need to Google it and be extremely familiar with it, because almost every hiring and interviewing format is the STAR format. It's STAR. And what I did is I just Googled top 10 STAR format questions, and I wrote out specific, like a paragraph for each one, and typed it up and everything, because I'm very organized that way. And I had those with me when I went to interview. And so in between interviews and like while you're, waiting in the lobby or something, you just read over what you already have prepared. So then when they ask you those questions, because they will, you'll already be prepared, and it won't sound like you're just saying or and you have to think about it, and you'll have a very organized and thorough answer to their question.
All right, raise your hand. How many people would be interested if I set up a mock interview program? All right. Look out for my emails and I'll let you know. It's a good point. We thought about it. Now that we know we got an audience for it, we'll definitely do it. Go ahead, question.
This is for the whole panel. In this competitive world, is an internship a must or a shadowing? Is that okay too?
I would say yes, intern. For us, and he spoke to it a little bit as well. You don't have any, you're not coming from somewhere where you have, we did it this way, and so we love, that's free training for us, so to speak, and then we're ready for you to come in.
It's a marketable experience versus nothing at all.
It also bridges a gap. What you weren't doing to now get you into the industry.
It makes it easier.
I learned a lot in my internship.
Well, my question was more of if you're not able to get an internship, can you do the shadowing?
That would be your next best
Yeah.
You should do something to prepare you and actually go and see. Especially if you already have an interest in a specific field, you need to actually go and see it before you interview.
Research.
Get up there.
Like most companies, in order to get like a shadowing, would you have to just contact them and simply just ask, or do you have to go through like a process?
You should ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. Nobody's going to, actually that would be pretty impressive coming from a student that didn't have an internship or already have an affiliation with the company. If you just ask, the worst they can do is say, no, we're not set up to do that right now. But the best thing they can do is have you come in for an hour and sit with somebody and you get their undivided attention. So you should definitely ask. Most managers are impressed by that and think it's a compliment. and want to help you.
This question for anybody, it's tough for Dominique since you don't like marketers.
Which is not a good thing. They're wonderful.
I was trying to say.
With a resume, is it frowned upon to have a two-page resume in today's world?
Yes, I was actually going to say that specifically. You should only have a one-page resume. I've heard managers say before, unless you have extensive experience, if you have extensive, complex experience, you should spell it out. But for most graduates, you should get it on a page, because if not, it's going to be wordy, because you need to have white space and all these phrases about what makes it look clean and organized and, you know, the right format. And so if you have 2 pages, it says that you probably aren't organizing your thoughts well enough to make it concise.
Now, there's some footnotes to all of this. Everybody's going to have a different version to resumes.
Yes.
What you got to be careful of is not to cut off anything that's relevant just for the one page, okay? You can have a job that will throw you to a second page that's really the one that's going to leapfrog you into what you're looking for. So be careful on that one-page rule, because if you have it, put it on it, okay? Don't sell yourself short. So every case is totally different, and every industry is different. Marketing will have a different format, accounting will have a different format, so you have to research what the industry prefers in resumes, okay? So if you're looking for resumes, talk to the people who are in that, and that goes back to you, would you critique my resume? And the person in the industry will say, do it this way, because that's what they want to see, okay? So it doesn't hurt to ask. Worst case, you don't listen to them.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't
Best
have to-
case, they help you out. They get you an interview, or they open up. And remember, you're reminding them who you are. Now, I got a question I want to ask first. Just quickly, how important is working in teams in the business?
For me, well, I guess we'll start on this. It's definitely important because as a management team, we make a lot of decisions together. I think I didn't like it so much when I was here, especially in your class, because everybody don't, in real world, you all have a common goal. My goal while I was here was to make it 8, other people here wasn't. So, you know, somebody want to do less work. The best thing about it is, this is the time, even though you may seem like a tattletale or whatever, but get you ready for experience. If somebody's not pulling their weight, you're not pulling your weight. You know, right now is the time for you to get real life experience. You may, because right now we all come from, well, I don't want to tell, he ain't doing his way, we just gonna do the work without him. No, get that out your head. Somebody, when you come to do a group project on your team, this is time, because that's building some real, it's a problem that you have to deal with. But yes, it was great. I was like, well, we'll do it without him. I need an A. But I'm telling you guys, tell them.
You got the A anyway, didn't you?
Right.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I would say absolutely without a doubt, be able to work with people, you know, a real life example is a couple weeks ago in our procurement department, one of the procurement decision makers said, we're no longer going to do business with this supplier because we can get a better price out of this supplier. Well, so procurement, they kind of made that little decision in a tunnel, or in a funnel, whatever you want to call it. And when they took that, when it was time to show operations, hey, we're no longer going to do business with this supplier, operations was up in arms. So you got to remember that operations is the ones making the money. You're cutting costs, but there wasn't a lot of teamwork in the decision, obviously, and I think that story went all over the CEO, and he was not happy about that, right? So the fact that one person calls a shot, and there wasn't a lot of conference calls, emails being sent, you know, they just called the shot and said, go do it. There wasn't any teamwork there, and you got to have that in today's world, you know. Supply chain is going to work with finance, accounting, marketing, AP. I mean, they're going to work with everybody across the board. You know, no matter what position you're in, you have to be able to work with groups of people, and you've got to touch your weight. You know, to Dominique's example, in a classroom, yeah, if one person's not pulling their weight, okay, I'm going to up mine, I'm going to pull through for them. In the real world, if you're not pulling your weight, you're out of a job. You know, there's no, I want to make an A. I want to make a paycheck or I'm out. you know? So,
Quickly.
sorry.
Bottom line is,
Because I want to get one more question in here with her, Pastor, quickly, and then we'll go to one question.
bottom line is, the very important thing always in teamwork, the best ideas come forward or come together. So you always want teamwork. To me, it's more dealing with egos. You got all these bosses, you got egos to deal with. How you say it, you know, who takes the lead on, you know, so it's more communications again. That's why to me, it was getting better practice with communications. How do you deal with egos? How do you get your point across so you get what you really want to say and be effective at it, you know, so yeah, definitely teamwork.
I agree.
Marketing's not all that bad. We got one more question, definitely, we'll wrap it up.
One question for Dominique. Hi, I'm Tierra Mosley. I want to work on my certification for medical coding. So do you work with medical coders or just medical assistants?
Well, we have a billing department, of course, so you have my card, they can help you with that.
Cool. Hey, how about a great hand for this? Token of our appreciation for doing our first ever alumni panel, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. You're here if you still want them. You're all yours.